continued until probably our first meeting in December. And so in its stead, just a minute, Tom Potts and Ruben are going to give a brief presentation on a project they're working on called Music on Main, which is, it's kind of an economic development, promotion, educational, cultural, kind of all rolled into one. It's a project with APT, which is really pretty interesting. And while, and they'll be setting that up, but we'll take that first before we begin the city hall relocation discussion.
Mayor, if I can mention real quick, Councilman Reddick and I have been attending the complete council committee meetings.
Okay.
And yeah, that will be a.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Item 3 are consent agenda items, reimbursements, and authorizing a grant application. Any issue or questions as to item 3?
No, the grant application, the museum is providing the matching funds through their budget process for 2020.
2020, that was the point I wanted
Yeah.
to make, yes, sir. It'd be 15,000 local match, but we would know in time to plan for it next year's budget.
That's fine.
Any issue then as to 3A or B? Okay. Item 4, the county commission has made a request for some funding with respect to Buckaloo Bridge Road. Resurfacing and replacing drainage structures. Any items of discussion as to, or any discussion or questions as to item 4?
That would come out of the allotment for Ward 4 for the bond that we've just refinanced. And it's a partnership. Oxford's paying,
Right.
county's paying, our part would be, I understand, 18%.
Okay.
I'm assuming that the percentage is based on the percent of the area that's being,
In the city.
yeah, they've been so good to work with us.
Yeah.
That
Oh, no,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
hesitate
Our 18% is actually the end of the road.
to. Yeah,
It's the last segment.
yeah.
Okay, so that knocks out 3 and 4. Let's do this then. Tom, while we're waiting on the video to be set up, I kind of briefly previewed this. This is a Music on Main project that Tom Potts has been working on. I know he's talked to some of us about this.
Yeah.
It's, this really is economic development, promotion, education, cultural, kind of all rolled into one project, and it's specifically a project with APT. So Tom, before we get the video set up, if you'll just begin your discussion on that,
Sure.
we appreciate you
Absolutely.
coming and talking to us about this project.
Well, I got just a few handouts here to give y'all too, to kind of help along with it. Music Off Main, idea behind just the program itself. I've worked an arrangement with public television for us to be able to have a weekly program with them, concentrate on our community, and it's artistic endeavors. I tell you, let me just get faster. Part of it having to do with, there's so many different components. It's not just about having a program. We have to have something like that at started. But from an economic development standpoint, the idea is to try to get, we all know what happens when you Google Anniston, and not all is good. And we'd like to be able to see, get rid of all the bad. We'd like to be able to intersperse some good information with that to help balance things out a little bit, because we all know that live here, there's all kinds of good stuff going on here. But we've got to tell people that. So part of this is there's a 90-second slot inside each one of these programs where we'll be doing interviews with individual people that are doing special things here. It could be like Rose Mumford, what she does with arts kids here in town. With Ruben here. Ruben Mitchell's with me. He's our education director for the program. And he, of course, is the band director for Anniston, but he also has a terrific band. Some of the other members of the band are also band directors from other schools. A really unusual setup. But that's one of the programs we got in the can. We did a program through the Summer Knox program that was out here outdoors. Real unusual. But interviews like that could be like a violin maker out in McClellan. People don't know he's doing that out there, but we could do a little piece on him and push that kind of information out there. Not just vignettes, but little video, 90-second, 60-second to 90-second videos. We're sending out statewide, social media-wise, on an ongoing, regular basis. Again, not changing things overnight, but over time, that'll have an impact. All that's happening here, strictly in our community. And that's an outgrowth of the program. Public television is also interested in taking on those 90-second vignettes and adding them to a program they already had for the same sort of thing. So we get kind of a double whammy out of the social media program. There's an educational component too. Part of what we want to be able to do is have kids, that's something Ruben will be in charge of or helping us out with. And that's getting interested juniors and seniors mostly to start with, who can help us with as being production assistants. I think I've got a little piece here to kind of explain what they are. Yeah, here's, take one, pass those around if you want. But it tells you a little bit about what we expect with the students. They help us with, and they be getting real world education, not just learning in the classroom, which is nothing wrong with that, but working on an actual television show that's actually going to be on the air. Learning about lighting, camera work, editing, and be around it, know what that kind of thing entails. If they're really good at it and something they really want to do, it can turn into a job, you know. Certainly they can use it on their resumes for going to school or further education, whatever they want to do with it. And again, as we've talked about that, that's something that they would have access to. I'm not aware of any other school systems that have that kind of a program. Sure, they have classes, like I say, but not working on a real honest to goodness movie or television productions actually airing. Part of what they get too is their name in the credits of the television show statewide. They take some pride in that, I would hope. At the end of each semester or each, however long a period, we give them a certificate of thanks and appreciation for having accomplished this with the program. And our hope is to be able to grow that. We'll start relatively small, probably 3 or 4 students, with helping them help us understand exactly how it can work to smooth this, and then grow that from there each year, each semester. But anyway, that's how that works. These are just some of the general benefits from the program, from the economic development standpoint, from the educational standpoint. Let me just pass those around for you. And again, this just reiterates, kind of sums up the good news, how to pass the good news around. Thank you.
Tom, are y'all working with anybody like Longleaf Studios or anybody in this process?
We haven't yet, but yeah, we've talked with them about being able to coordinate efforts and stuff when we need to. The idea is not to have just one venue, to have all of the happenings and stuff. We want to be able to move around the community,
Right.
different places, and show, and even to the extent you couldn't do it probably even the first season, but say when Knox is lining up a contract, or Oxford Performing Arts Center lining up a contract, if they got somebody coming into town they would like to have their show on Alabama Public Television, we've been licensed by APT to be able to make arrangements with them so we get permission from them to do that and turn one of those shows into a public television show, which again created right here in Anniston. So I mean, all those different kinds of things, that helps too, just in the industry, getting known a little bit better for being able to produce things here, because we don't have we've got a lot of the, like you talk about, the theater or the facilities, but we aren't really putting out a lot of product, so people don't see us or know us for that yet, but we can change that.
Yeah, I think we're putting out more product than people recognize.
You're right. You're right.
You know,
Yeah.
and you start getting folks like the dance studios and the cast, and particularly with their kid program and their teen program.
Sure.
They just did a great Willy Wonka performance this
They
weekend.
did. That was awesome.
And so there's a lot of it out there that we're not doing a very good job
I think
of
all of
telling
us
our story.
appreciate it for what it is, for it's part of our community, but there's no way other people outside of here know that. And it doesn't add the value that it adds to our community that we're aware of. They don't see it. All they know is we've had pollution, we've had an education problem. I don't have to tell you all the things. And again, this isn't going to fix that by itself, but it's going to intersperse it with some really positive information at the same time And we can build on that. And the city could use that information as part of a package or whatever else to send out to people. Look what's all that's going on here, these unusual stories. And you can think, I mean, off the top of your head, you can think of a dozen, you know. But we need to share them on a regular basis, not just once. Anybody see that? You know, but a constant barrage of social media. That's a big part of this program. Do it statewide on a regular basis. And the kids will be able to help us with that too.
Well, I appreciate that. I do think that we have to capitalize on our assets, because if all we do is concentrate on our problems, our assets will diminish.
Right.
And I want to say that Ruben has been great working with me with the Anniston High School students. When we bring world-class symphonies to Anniston, he
Right.
brings the band students, and we do programs, and we get funding through the Alabama State Council for
That's
the
right.
Arts for
That's right.
this. And I think you've got a great partner in Ruben
Oh, I
in
agree.
helping you with this.
Yeah. Well, Ruben, you may have also seen him on stage with man from Chicago. What's his name?
Peter Cetera.
Yeah, Peter Cetera.
Mhm.
That's no
Oh, I
small
see.
thing.
He was good.
Yeah. But any questions? I don't know where we are on the video, but it's going.
What are you sharing this as information, or do you need something from the council? And
Both. Want to share this as information. We've talked some with the city about different ways for this to be funded. I've worked up a plan and a budget for what all it's going to take. And for any one entity to take that on would be a little much. I've already put in about $35,000 of my own money to get this. I've already produced 2 shows. I'm halfway through a 3rd show. What we're looking for from Anniston is a total of about $50,000. And what we're looking at is 2 $25,000 tranches. One would be directly to APT, and then APT, they can't do it as anybody but cities, it turns out. I've learned a lot by talking to them about this. Then they turn around and we go through itemizations and stuff with them, and they get reimbursed for the production. And then the other 25, and I don't want to put words in Jack. Jack, you want to explain how that might work? Or you want me just to?
Well, no, go ahead. I mean, as
Okay.
far as the promotional
Okay.
aspect.
Yeah, but just go through
yeah.
the education system here and have that doled out as expenses are incurred and all. And things like we'll need, for training, we'll need to get just some simpler equipment and things like that we wouldn't want to use the real expensive stuff to learn, you know, for lighting and camera work and that kind of stuff. And then do some training sessions. And I've talked with Ruben about this. I mean, we want to make sure we stay within whatever the rules are. I'm not aware he is of the rules and things for the school, what we can do on, you know, on grounds of the school, what we can't, I don't know, all those things. We're willing to work with however that works.
I mean, it does check a lot of boxes. I mean, with respect to the educational system, with promotion, and you're right. I mean, we do need to do a far better job of promoting what we have. But it's also quality of life. It's economic development. I mean, I envision, you know, if this thing goes through, I mean, I envision even video of, say, a federal courthouse ultimately being constructed, or other developments going on in the city.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the work you've done on this, and I know you're looking at multiple partners in this, and
But
multiple governmental partners.
Anniston's a critical core.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, without this kind of support, some of the others, it's like dominoes, like Alabama Power. I don't want to name too many names, but we've talked to some other people. And they're willing to help, especially economic development, part of it, educational, all those things. But they'll make sure the city thinks it's a good idea.
Right.
They're just going to go out and do it willy-nilly. And I understand that.
Yeah.
So we got to put our priorities straight and get that right.
Is there not a pot of money in this community related to tourism and tourism promotion?
All that money goes to the.
From the Chamber of Commerce.
It goes to the
Yeah.
chamber. It goes, the county collects the tax and then they send it straight to the Chamber of Commerce.
Wouldn't this qualify as a
And
tourism?
we talked about that too. Yeah.
Some of that money, we actually have had a sliver of that. We've had $5,000 from that source. We didn't make it any bigger ask than that. There wasn't evidently more than that available that hadn't already been expended on other things. But that's, yeah, definitely worth, not like it's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
The other thing about this, I should say, is once we get this started, and one of the reasons why it be funded that way, so it comes directly to us or anything like that, if we fund it this way, we should be able to qualify for other grants. So this won't be something we have to come back to the city every year for another $50,000 or $100,000, but over time kind of wean the city from that and have grant money paying the rest of it. We kind of followed, been learning a lot about this. Public television has confidence in us to be able to do this because They've worked with us on this Duggar Mountain Music Hall show for the last 6 years, we've been 8 years, but with public television for 6. And so they know, I mean, the video's part of it. Oh, is it working?
Yeah, I think you just have to do it.
Okay. Well, we got the director,
Yeah, well,
Roy
sure,
Clem is
yeah.
on here from, the
Yeah.
guy from public television
Yeah.
saying, wow, you guys ought to do this. Now let's see what we're doing. Oh, fast. Okay, just gonna run straight from this like they normally would, or?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I've got a couple of, if you've got time, I'm going to show you just a short, little maybe 3-4 minute little overall encompassing video. And then just the beginning of the first show, so you can kind of see the outline. It was done at Anniston Performing Arts Center here in Anniston, and what the opening of the show could look like, and with Ruben's band kind of opening things up. Okay. Oh, Wi-Fi code, anybody? We got audio.
It's on mute.
No, there's nothing plugged into a speaker. Too quickly. Public television is ready. They're ready. The show is slotted to start in February. But we can, if we have to make moves, so whatever we have to do, we'll do it. And I don't know which, that depends on y'all's time frame too.
So this one right here that you were about to show us has not been shown yet. It's ready to
Nothing's
be
been,
shown.
nothing's been shown
So
yet.
you're to filming your third
Right.
episode.
I've got 2 shows in the can and a third in the process.
Okay.
And you need to be really at least that many in advance because,
Sure.
you run out of shows.
Yeah.
And absolutely part of the show too. I mean, y'all can enjoy it. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
Ruben and his guys,
Yeah.
it's absolutely unbelievable, the talent that we have around this community.
Oh, no
And
doubt.
people have no idea.
I agree.
And a lot of it through, just really on the acoustic side mostly that we see with Duggar Mountain Music Hall. But I've always felt like I was pretty tied into the music community around here. 90% of the people we had out there, that's where I met them.
yeah.
Was them, somebody said, you need to come out here and play, and they're incredible. From all different types of genre of music and everything from opera to bluegrass, jazz, whatever.
Well, I mean, and Anniston has a rich cultural history anyway.
It
And
does.
that ought to be promoted.
Well, and theatrical,
Yeah,
artistically
absolutely,
as well,
absolutely.
all the way back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, does it make sense to everybody? Have I sufficiently confused you, or does it make sense?
Yeah,
or-
yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense to me.
Great. Well, then feel free to give me a call anytime about anything. If you say, well, let me think about this. If you have any questions about it, please let me know.
Just one thing.
Sure.
I write the arts grants for the Knox concert, you know that.
Right.
The educational programs, and we were cut off from South Arts because you have to use artists in your region, and we bring them from Europe over here.
Right.
And so we were cut off. And so if this is something that I could help you with as far as getting some grants through South
Right.
Arts, I'll be glad to do that because that's an arm of the National Endowment for the Arts.
Thank you.
And
That'd be
you just let
fabulous.
me know, and I'll be glad to come and once again and talk about it.
Okay.
I know the people over there, and I'll do whatever I can to help them.
Great.
They're usually pretty generous with their grant, their funding, better than the state of Alabama
Wow.
is, really.
Well,
So-
part is we know that there's plenty of it right here in our backyard,
Uh-huh.
but we also want to be able to, like if Knox has a show or if there's a show coming through, just be able to show people what comes through here. We can do that too. That wouldn't be necessarily that something was born in Calhoun County. It may be from Europe or whatever,
Well,
but it
from
would be
South Arts-
benefiting.
From South Arts, it has to go.
I got you. Well,
Okay.
most of the shows would. Yeah,
Okay.
would be that way. Thank you.
Okay. You're quite welcome, let's talk.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Rick.
you so much.
Sorry to make
All right, the next one is the big one. So let's go ahead and start talking about City Hall relocation. And we did our tour last week, had executive session last week, and we do need to ultimately discuss this publicly. And so I do know that we're waiting on a little bit more information from Bill Whitaker. Correct.
And two of the potential landlords.
Right, right. And so, I mean, while we still need to discuss this tonight, given the fact that we will be getting additional information, I mean, I think we need to ultimately vote on this next week, the special call meeting. I'm wondering if we ought to set another work session agenda to discuss would y'all be amenable to that? To discuss the new Whitaker information?
Who is that? Who's the little?
That's
The
the
architect, the architect, yeah.
New, I ain't got no.
That's fine.
No, I mean, the architect who's working with us on this project.
When can he get to giving us more information since he's not working right now?
It'd have to probably be Tuesday afternoon at the earliest.
You know, something I was talking a little bit about earlier today, and I wish I would have thought of it sooner, but instead of us looking at getting rid of the city meeting center, what if we use the botanical garden as our city hall? What if we use that as an option instead of taking over the city meeting center and losing all of those events and everything? Losing all that event space. Because we own the botanical garden as well.
Yeah, it's leased out too.
Is it?
It's a year out to get in that space.
It's a what?
It's a year out to get in that space, is what I was told.
So, I mean, you think we are really looking at probably Tuesday? I mean, because, I mean, this is an important decision, and I recognize that, that while time is of the essence, we need to make an informed decision. I still think we need to do it by the end of next week. though. I
Well,
really
if
do.
we meet on Tuesday, if we receive that information on Tuesday, you know, as I understood it from the email, that's gonna be the only item on the agenda for that for that call meeting anyway, right?
That's what the mayor and I had discussed.
Could we not recess into executive session to discuss because we're discussing, not so much the information from Whitaker, but from the
The
building
plan,
owns.
Right, right.
You know, when we
That's
start
the
to talk
big
about
deals.
the negotiation piece of it all, that falls into my understanding of what would suffice for an executive session, am I correct?
Yeah, and I think the question is the debate going to disadvantage your position with regards to a negotiation for the real property? You know, if you're talking about, I like this building because of this and that, and you know, that's one thing. But if you're talking about the terms and conditions that are acceptable and that, you know, what your positions are, would disclosure of the information have a materially negative impact on the city's position? That's the way I look at it.
Well, if we get it Tuesday, what do y'all think about next Thursday, having both, next Thursday or Friday, having a special call meeting, a work session prior to that, with the possibility that we still go into executive session and then come back following
As long
that
as it's
executive
early in the
session.
day, that's the meet and greet with the
I think
NBA
that's right, that's 5 o'clock.
at 5.
Oh, okay, okay.
If we could do it early, like 3
I'll
or
be out of
2.
town, I'll be out of town Thursday and Friday.
Why don't we just stay the course for Tuesday and see how it plays out? If we need to meet the following day, we'll meet the following day.
Just have a special call meeting the following day.
You want to do a work session? at
We just
4,
continue it so we don't,
at 5
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, let's do that, because we actually did that for the other one, if we need to recess and reconvene.
Yeah, I want to.
Well, we're talking about having a call meeting on Tuesday, and then maybe recessing it, yeah.
so 4 o'clock on Tuesday, the 27th.
Does that work for everybody?
No,
And that doesn't mean not discussing it now.
yeah, I do want to say, I sent the email out. 'Cause- And I think all of us, as elected officials, has to look at what we're doing. And I don't believe not one of us, if we were spending our own money, would go with this plan. I am proposing that we go back to GSA and we sit down and and work out a deal that's applicable to them and us. I asked this question right here. Can I see the minutes of this letter that Brian Johnson wrote to GSA? Can I see the council minute where the council approved this kind of thing? Jay, you remember approving this letter?
I remember that coming before us, yeah.
This letter right here?
I do too.
Yeah,
I mean,
the proposal that, I remember approving the proposal. I sure
Okay,
did.
not proposal, this letter. Have you read this letter?
I've read it, yeah.
This letter?
It was attached to the proposal.
You remember seeing it, Dave?
I'm not sure. I don't recall right now.
He committed the city to transfer ownership of the city if GSA decides to build on the site. Okay? It's scheduled and mandated by GSA, on the schedule mandated by GSA. So we can operate any schedule that's mandated by GSA. And our plan would be to remove them, a building or two on the site. We also understand that either the GSA or the city may ultimately need to compensate the other for any difference in value between the two places. I would just ask, who, as an elected official, if someone would say, I'm coming, I want your house, give me your house, and I'm going to give you mine, and you will have to renovate my house. And ultimately, the individual that takes your house, you're going to have to spend an additional about $3 million. Not $6 million before this thing is panned out. Now we're talking about a $30 million courthouse maybe coming into this city.
42.6.
42.6. Okay, 42.6. Coming in and building here. But the city, we're looking at about, I think before this thing is over with, we're looking at about between $7 to $10 million that the public is going to have to eat. We're already in a what, $15 million for the jail bond. We had $2.6 million for something that was done, another bond referendum at McClellan. We got $3 million we just did. That's what we know about. There's probably some more stuff that I don't know about right now that we're committed to. We got about $100 million pensions, police pension and firemen, $100 million in the debt there, plus an additional $10 million with this other, I reckon, with our regular employees there. So the city's in a monstrosity hole of debt. And as Councilman Reddick said, when we get ready to ask for a penny for us to go in our area, that it's like pulling, it's very, very difficult. And Jay will ultimately sometime bank with us and we can get a little something. I'm just saying, this is what this guy also said. Should a need arise to defray or offset the increased construction costs associated with building in a floodplain, the city is prepared to enhance this property exchange proposal. Example of this may include options such as the city demolishing existing buildings, providing additional fill material, or acting as the relocation agent for a courthouse move. How can private people that were bidding on this property compete with this? And the private people that was bidding on this particular site will now have to be the business people that has to, if we float a bond, those same people will, if we were to depend on their tax dollars to pay the bond back, that this guy was writing Gibbon Wind Farm. And I still want to see the minutes where this was approved and this stuff was in there. I do think that we can engage GSA. And as I stated, if they can be out of that building, the courthouse, by July of next year, we can be in there by September of next year. It may not be set up exactly where we need to be, but we can go in there temporary move. It just, something has to be better than what this is that we're dealing with right now. I mean, I sit down, after analyzing and adding up the cost, the Bible tells us about adding up the cost. I don't think we've added up top the cost on the GSA had. It has taken them about 20 years to make the decision on the courthouse. And they're giving us about 20 minutes to move out of here. President Trump, as I stated, like him or hate him or whatever, the book he wrote was The Art of the Deal, not The Art of the Steal. And this deal is pillaging the citizens of Anniston. And I think the council has to, we can't just roll over and say, we're so glad you're here, we're glad you're coming, whatever you want, open the door, we're going to pay everything. GSA, the federal government, can print money. Anniston can't. We can't do it. And this letter, and so, you know, I'm for let us, you know, talk and re-engage in GSA. We talk with the congressmen, we talk with the senators, and let's go back to the whole. And anyone can see that as elected officials, and both are, they're dealing with federal, they're dealing with public funds. Likewise, we're dealing with public funds. It's just that they're more able to raise some public funds than we are. And so I can't see you rushing in, and we're making a deal to let's move out, spend $3 million in a few years, let's spend another $3 to $4 million building the city hall. Is the was it Whitaker? Is he giving me the plan also about building the building out on Chalk Line?
Not a plan, but he's going to have an estimated cost and a schedule for the new building, yes, sir.
The new building. Okay. You know, I'm just saying, if any one of us was spending our own private money to do this deal, I don't think not one of us would say, okay, let's do it.
Well, let me just say, I'm beyond thrilled that the regional federal courthouse is going to be located in Anniston, Alabama. I think that the economic development impact of this is going to be incalculable. And not just from the number of people who will be working on the federal courthouse while it is being constructed. This to me is the biggest economic development deal that has happened in Anniston probably in 50 years. Based on conversations with GSA, they are appraising the existing federal courthouse. They will be appraising this site, including the buildings that are located on this site. And ultimately, that will drive the negotiation between the city and GSA, which will be an arm's length transaction. We don't know at this point whether it will be a land swap, and that will ultimately also be up to us, or whether they simply purchase this building from us. I don't even know at this point whether we would ultimately be purchasing the existing federal courthouse. But I just got to say, I respect your opinion, but just fully and fundamentally disagree with that. This is a huge deal for Anniston. I'm glad it's moving forward. Time is of the essence, and I'm glad that time is of the essence because it means it's going to be built here soon.
Go ahead.
I would first off echo what Jack's saying, but I would put it to us that this letter that we've got was written in February 2016. And now while everybody in this room wasn't on the council at the time that letter was read, every one of us since our day in the office has been aware that this property was being put in there for consideration. I'm going to tell you that if we're rushing now, it's our own fault. We're running down 3 years since we submitted that in. Okay, February 19 will be 3 years since we submitted that in. We should have been proactive in finding us an alternative location to make this transition seamless. We didn't. That's water under the dam. under the bridge at this point, it doesn't matter. Okay, that doesn't matter anymore. At this point, it is what it is. I'm not willing to slow this train down. I am willing to roll up my sleeves and do whatever it takes to come to a good resolution on where we land. And both from a financial perspective, from an image perspective, and from a long-term and short-term sensible path. I'm prepared to do that. We got to meet every night to get to that point, and we got to meet every night to get to that point. But I'm not willing. We've been talking about this federal courthouse for 20 years in this community. It took 20 years to get the funding in place. If we go to GSA and say, hey, we want you to postpone this for a year, guess where our money's going?
Somewhere else.
To the next guy in line. That's where it's going, and you're waiting another 15, 20 years to see that kind of money show up in this community again. I'm not going there.
I'm not going there either.
If it costs us a couple more dollars to get where we need to be in order to get them here, well then it just does, and I'm okay with it.
The last thing we need to do is throw any kind of roadblock in front of this deal. I mean, we're talking huge economic impact here, and I cannot imagine ever trying to nix it. And I'm not willing to do that. I agree with you, Jay. We should have been doing something. It's our fault. And
That's irrelevant, but
it is irrelevant. But
Well, and I'll take whatever responsibility for that lies on my shoulders. I've got no issue with taking said responsibility.
I'm accepting it. I'm not.
Oh, no,
I'm not
yeah,
pointing
no,
fingers.
no, I'm not saying,
Don't
but you're right. I mean,
mistake.
it is what it is, and we're there now, and we got to decide.
Here's my concern with the whole thing, okay? And I agree, we need to move on the courthouse, that's fine. But the spending that this council has been doing, we've taken bonds and bonds. We want to take a bond to renovate a building until the next building is done, and we're gonna have to take a bond to renovate that building. We are sacrificing our tomorrow on the altar of now. And the bonds we're taking, okay, I'm saying I need these things in my community so I can get certain stuff done. But we can't do that. We need to take bonds for other issues though. And this is another bond. It's just another debt that we're incurring for the next council to pay. So we're tying we are totally against the school board tying the hands of the next school board with the superintendent and CFO, but we in turn tying the hands of this next council because we're doing 6 and 8 year bonds that the next council has no choice but to try to pay back. So now we're gonna end up in a situation where all our money is stuck paying back bonds that this council is doing, and we're not doing positive debt bonds, we're doing negative debt bonds. We're doing bonds of money that we're not gonna get back. It's not gonna pay for itself. If we're doing positive debt bonds, if we took out a bond and built a theme park or a park or something like that that's gonna bring in tourism and bring in money and it's gonna create a revenue stream for the city, that'll be different. But we're not taking these kind of bonds. We're taking this negative debt and we're tying the hands of our future with all this debt we're doing. So I'm for doing something that we as a city can make payments on, like doing rent or something like that, because what we don't need to do is another bond. And what I see happening what I see the direction of us going is let's find a way to take something and do a bond, and then we're going to do another bond once the federal courthouse is done, and it moves over here. We're going to do another bond. Now we're like bond happy lately, and like we were saying, we wouldn't do this on our personal finance because we'll end up bankrupt. But we're doing it to our city and we're doing it to our constituents. So what happens in 2 years after we done took so many bonds that the city is basically our finances are absolutely tied up and we can't spend another dime, and then we have some kind of major event happen in the city and we need money. We can't do anything. We can't take care of our citizens because we're putting our citizens in so much future debt that there's nothing anybody can do. What happens if we get, and we got a good council now, we got a good mayor now. What happens if we get when he was, if Jack runs for reelection or we get another mayor, and he has an ideal and a plan and a 10-year plan, and if we do this, we can double the size of the city. But guess what? We can't do anything now because we took out bonds for small issues that really isn't paying anything back. And we can't do anything because we done borrowed so much money, we can't borrow money anymore. We're tying this council's future up with.
We hadn't even figured out where we're gonna go,
Absolutely.
what it's gonna cost,
Everything we're doing is we're saying.
or
we need a
what's
bond.
gonna be the final transaction between us and GSA. We may find that once they finish the appraisals, GSA says, I want it, what, let's look at it this way. What if the scenario is this? They do the appraisals, GSA says, you know what, we decided we're just gonna keep our building. Your block is worth 2.3 million. We're gonna give you a check for 2.3 million.
But that's not the discussion we're having now. The discussion we're having now is, this is how much it's gonna cost to do this building. We need $1 million up front. And what I'm saying is.
Now,
and
we're
this is-
preparing. We're having a
this is-
discussion
and
in
this is-
preparation.
And this is the reason I support making a move in which the city doesn't have to do a bond to make that move. This is my rationale. This is my reasoning why the move I propose we make is a move where we don't have to take out a loan to make the move. Let's do it, you know. That's why I'm not supporting other moves. We got options on the table. That's why I think the way I think about my options. We need to think about the future of this city, and we can't bond ourselves into poverty.
But if you look at this letter, the last council should have made this. You're right, Jay. You should have planned this stuff out already. Because according to this letter, you already had. See, our plan would be to renovate the old courthouse so it could be used as our new city hall. Y'all voted on that?
We supported that letter.
I mean, did y'all vote for use that building at the city hall?
That was part of our proposal.
Yes.
So we voted for it.
Show me the minute with this. Did you read this when y'all voted? Y'all voted?
And that half the stuff I got.
Well, I mean, and the majority of the council that was there then
Well, I mean,
is here now, and I suspect all three of them voted for that resulted in
That
that.
doesn't necessarily mean that they read anything.
Doesn't mean they voted on it
Yeah.
though,
Yeah,
affirmatively.
Well, I don't know. And the other thing, like I said before, we have a considerable amount of responsibility. I mean, the idea Mr. Potts brought is a good idea, but I'm hearing the council is bubbling over with joy in getting it done. But we bring something to the table, and it's, where's the money, where's this, and I mean, I don't have any problem with what's going on. I'm just saying it's not, we don't treat our issues the same, but we're asking for things to help our people in our community. I mean, it's like Dave and I have to tread softly through and wiggle and wobble and weave and bop through to try and get somebody to come with us to help us out to make some things happen. And that's a big concern. I do want to see the minutes when this thing was approved, but I still say that not one of us will use this deal, that what we're about to plummet our citizens into debt with this. And the deal is, you bring them back. Again, one Congress passed NAFTA. President Trump went back and renegotiated the deal. One council passed, so GSA knows and understands that the deal by someone else may not necessarily be the same deal. We just have to ask the president. Yeah. If he said he saw it was a bad deal for America, I see this as a bad deal for Anniston. I'm planning on to be at all the meetings that I'm in town to be at on, because I'm going to voice that all along the way. And GSA, this whole thing, I know, and no one's saying scrapping the deal and turning around. It would say that one country, I'm not going to call the country name, I read some history, and they asked how country X defend this capital. He said, we don't know, they never have. Every time someone needs to start a war, they go practice on that country first, beat them, and they never defend the capital. This council is not defending the citizens of Anniston, because we're not sitting there Have you been, I don't know what GSA, what they look like. Have you seen them folks GSA? You've been in any one of those meetings? I don't know if anybody's seen that on there. So we have 52% of the, and they say, here he go racial again. I'm not talking racial, I'm talking truth. Over 52% of this, people in this city are black. I haven't talked with a GSA individual. David haven't, and I don't know who has. I don't know who else is in there, like me sitting there talking. But this is a major deal, and I need to vote on and talk with the constituents that's raining more in their houses on the inside than on the outside. Houses falling in and they're in it. Say, what, that's their problem. No, it's because they didn't have a good job coming up through life. They pummeling here and piddling here, trying to make ends meet. And now we can just rush into this thing, like cattle, like the hogs over the cliff, and say, let's go ahead and jump in, this is a good deal. Where's the money? Who's gonna be making the money that's gonna be paying it back? And this letter snookered that block out of the deal by offering so much to GSA, so much to the GSA, that the private citizen could not compete honestly and equally and fairly with it. Now, you know, do what you want to. You can vote tonight, because it's not somebody ready to vote. It's sort of happen, vote. But my thing still, we either build a new building temporarily and go there and use it afterwards, or we just talk with GSA and say delay it just for a little bit. We don't know what they're going to say. We hadn't even asked them.
Well, the appraisal's not finished yet.
Well, I mean, we haven't asked them about look, let's look at this thing sensibly. It's going to cost our people an enormous amount of money. If possible, we're really there. How can we work something out? What would it cost you to wait 6 months more, wait until about September, delayed about a year? What would it cost? How can we work something out? Is that feasible? We haven't asked them that. And that's what I'm saying. I want to be at the negotiating table. I want to talk to them. I want to talk with them one way or the other. Like the lady said, I want to talk with them one way or the other. You know, they don't have to talk or have to say anything. You know, but I'm going to talk with them on behalf of the people. I owe it to the citizens of this city that's going to be pulverized and covered with debt to at least try to correct this train wreck right here of this letter. God help us. God help us. God help us if this thing goes through on paying back. And West Anniston, South Anniston is through. They get nothing. It's over.
All right, let's do this. It's 5 o'clock, so we're going to come back in next Tuesday. What we say? What time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Okay. To resume discussion of the City Hall relocation. Item 5 is the city's appointment to the Healthcare Authority. We have received a resolution from the Healthcare Authority with the following names: Marcus Dunn, Robert Houston, and Sarah Salase. It is my understanding that Mr. Salase no longer wishes to be considered for the position. So we are looking at Mr. Dunn and Mr. Houston. I, for one, am very happy that Marcus Dunn is on this list, and I plan on nominating for and voting for Mr. Dunn. Any discussion as to the Healthcare Authority appointment?
I'm going to say, you know, isn't Marcus done on the hospital, on the Housing Authority Board?
Yeah, the issue there is whether both are city boards, but if they are both city boards, then he would be willing to come off of the Housing Authority Board.
You know, whose appointment is this? Whose appointment? Is that your appointment?
Well, that's not even the way it works anymore. I mean, it's, you know, we get a slate from the Healthcare Authority, and then the council as a whole selects either one of that slate or rejects that slate, at which point the process begins again. So when the ordinance with respect to the Healthcare Authority changed, the manner of appointing changed as well. And so no single one of us has a nomination to the board. Again, it originates with the healthcare authority. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I'm for
Isn't that
Mr.
illegal?
Dunn.
Because isn't the city of Anniston under a lawsuit to do ward, voting and nominations and board appointments? That's part of that's how we went from at-large voting to ward voting, is because the city of Anniston lost a lawsuit. So if
This
we
is
change
not a
that.
Yeah,
city
that's
board.
not the case
We
here.
cannot do that as a city and not have boards. We can't do at-large voting or appointing either.
There's
You-
rules,
you
there's
voted-
state
you
rules
voted
that
for the
govern.
resolution. When y'all
The
changed it,
resolution we were told would be the council members' appointment.
that's
And then-
not what you
and then-
voted
And then
on.
on top of
That's
this,
not what-
and I said it in protest, it was.
That's not what
I
was
was put in
said,
a
and
posi-
that's not what
and we
was
was
in
put
the
in a
document.
position that you either go with this or don't get an
Right.
appointment at all.
It was my understanding.
Hey, no, we were absolutely bullied.
My understanding, you advocated publicly in that meeting
For
for
yeah,
the passage of this very resolution.
No, I'm talking about this realignment of these board
That was in the
appointments that done
resolution.
us.
That's
that
the
we
way
got
that it was
put
done
with.
then.
No, I advocated us not taking somebody off a hospital board because they had a difference of opinion with a member.
What I'm saying is
of
the
this city.
resolution that was passed by the
Absolutely.
previous council, you voted for
I
that. And that included this
I
in that.
advocated for the city not trying to take over a hospital and anything else. That we put somebody on the board and we decide we don't like this person anymore, and we just flippantly decide we're gonna take this person off the board, and that's what was going on at this time. We decided, some members of this council decided they didn't want somebody on the board, and that's what this whole fight was about. We went through millions of dollars of litigation and everything else, or hundreds of thousands or whatever we spent, because two people had a difference of opinion.
Well, this is
End
the
of the day,
ordinance
that's what it
as
was
it
about.
exists.
But-
This is the legally
But we were
passed
still
ordinance.
told that you have disappointment. Now you're telling us that it's not that way anymore. Now
It's not that way, and I didn't vote on
I don't-
it. Yeah, that's
we
the
can't-
I don't
way
ever
this
be,
works.
I don't ever recall that conversation,
What's that?
that we had board appointments. No, that ordinance, when it was written, when it was presented, always had, I was the council liaison that was involved in that, in the writing of that. It always had 3 members recommended by the healthcare authority for consideration by the council. That's the way it was written. That's the way it was presented. That's the way it is.
This whole setup of this last council is we gonna do what we wanna do. Y'all had your votes, so it's gonna be your way. You either get on board with it or you get run over.
That order was passed, what, the last meeting or the second to last meeting on the way out?
Mhm.
That same order was presented twice. I know why they were trying to get it passed, because they knew, and you all probably would have passed anyhow, but anyway, it would have been a major, Senate vote for me. Today, it's been before, it came before us twice. And each time, the council rejected that mess. And I was hoping that the prior council would have rejected it also. And it's for good reason why they were rejecting it. And, but I think we still have ward appointment. It's just that they get to, for whatever ward comes up, they get to select the names for that particular time, and the council make the ultimate decision. I said this to Mr. Dunn. You know, it seemed to me we had got 3 blacks coming up here because a lot of white folk like it. So hummer, here it is. Let's present these 3 blacks and get some. Like I said, he's on the Housing Authority Board that needs his expertise and his time. That's where he should be. He has another position working with the county. That's where he should be. We have other blacks in this city, if we want to do that I think are willing and ready and able to serve. We just get the same black folk, we just parade, we prostitute them around from board to board. Mr. Houston just came off the museum board. He's on what's the other, Knox Concert Board? He's on that. He's on the school board. That one's been a hospital board. There are other black people in this city that can serve on boards. But because some of, and I'm not talking racial, I'm talking fact. Because some white folk like these folk, because they know how to do the duck and do it well. Yas and boss, and yas and boss. That's what they like. These folk know how to do it. No opposition, just roll over them and roll over our people. So I'm just saying that we don't need these same people running from board to board. Vote, you got your vote to do it. And I'm not voting for him because I'm not voting against him because he's black. I'm voting against him because he's at a position. He should stay there and utilize that well. Those people in the housing authority need good leadership. They need that. They're suffering. And he should stay there and do that, provide that. And don't let white people pull him from that position to put him on a hospital board so he can pat him on the head, yeah, and do what you can do. Now, there people will resent my remarks, but such as it is.
I'm sure Mr. Gunn would.
Well, I mean, I'm quite sure he would. And I'll say one of them sitting right there. And we can have that dialogue. I'm just saying that's what that's what goes on around here in the city. And you all will do that because you like it, because for that same reason.
I like him because he's an honorable human being. That
I
has nothing to do
didn't
with-
say nothing, but he was dishonest. I'm just saying
No, he's honorable, he's professional.
he's going to do what you say. That's what he's going to
I've
do.
never
Marcus is
seen
going to
him,
do
I would
anyone's
never
bid.
say
I
that
think
about
that he's a
him.
good guy.
He's a strong, good person.
I know that's what you say. I mean, I don't have no problem with that. You got that's your feeling. And it's about like a third point of contact. Everybody has one.
All right, well, we need to take this up
I mean,
at some point.
whoever, it's your appointment. So
It's
whoever
not my
you-
It's not
point,
his
it's not my
appointment.
point.
My disagreement.
Let's go
is
to
the
court,
fact that
David.
we don't
Let's
have
go.
an appointment.
Let's go to
It
court.
needs
We're going to have to go to court and get this thing straight. We get thrown out of court too. We got to fight it anyhow. This is messed up crap here. Let's just prepare to go to court. Won't be the first
You know,
time.
it's a validly enacted ordinance.
Well,
I mean, but be that as it may, okay.
I like you too, man.
Item 6. I love you too, man. Okay, item 6, Ms. Harris, this is yours, the council
Yes,
manager.
I've been somewhat confused about a lot of the emails I've been reading. As far,
Email you've been reading.
yeah, as far as our role, the council role. And I went online and I've read the Council Manager Act, and I would like some specifics as to what our roles are. I do understand we do not get involved with personnel matters. That is against the law. We're not supposed to do that. I do, and what I'm reading is our city manager, we hire him to administrate the city business. It is not our role to do so. It is our role to make policy. It is our role to make new departments, to create new departments. And I would like to know specifically what our role is and what our role isn't. And so I'm asking our city attorney to tell us, because I do not want to be in violation of this act. So I would appreciate some guidance.
I thought we would have somebody come in and talk about this Council Manager Act.
It's a pretty broad question.
And I mean, and we can do that too.
The,
I mean, have-
You know, I think Councilwoman Harris, you've hit on the main distinction, which is, you know, the council is not the administrative service of the city. With regards to the administrative service, which is led by your city manager, who you hire and fire, and so in that regard, you are involved, but the city manager has to be the CEO of the city, and he's got to be able to perform that administrative role, and he reports to the council like a board of directors with regards to his performance. And so you have oversight responsibility. He's accountable to the council for the administrative service, but the council is prohibited from getting involved in the administrative service except through the city manager. As far as what the council's overall role is, I mean, you know, the council is vested with the powers of the municipality. Obviously, it's the legislative branch, and you establish the laws and ordinances and policies of the municipality. Organizational concerns. I mean, the contract issue keeps coming up over and over again. Does the council have the power to contract? Yes, it does. That doesn't mean the city manager doesn't also have the power to enter into agreements and performance of the administrative function, administrative service. So it's hard for me to just say, this is the council's role, and like there's a checklist that you do only these things. But I think it's, as far as the distinction, it's really, if you can think about it more in terms of, is it an administrative function or not? If it is an administrative function, then in my opinion, the council's role is one of oversight, not of implementation. That's the best as I can articulate it on the spot.
I would suggest that if we want to get specific about it, that we get the Council Manager Act, that we put it in everybody's hands, and we have a little work session dedicated to that where we walk through it piece by piece and make sure we all understand. I mean, if that's important, then that's the way I'd approach it. We're talking, your question was in generalities and your answer was in generalities. I mean, there are unique circumstances that occur on an almost daily basis that make us all individually question, what is my role? Probably should have been done right at the beginning of the term, but it is what it is. It is fine.
Council Manager Act looks like me.
It's an interesting read, I can assure you. I read it all the time because these questions come up.
And it only applies to us, all the more interestingly. as
Yeah,
well.
just one version.
Yeah,
of it
right,
does.
right.
Yeah, we have there are general laws, council manager forms of government that other cities travel under. We have our own unique statute that at the time and still today only applies to the city of Anniston. It was drafted in 1953, I think, when it was created. But obviously I'm here, one of my duties by ordinance is to give advice to the council to the degree it's wanted. If there's ever any question, I'm here, you can call me about it. I mean, I would just, as long as you're not dealing directly with the administrative service except through the city manager. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the council, and this is true of the Anniston City Council as it is every other council in the state, individually you have no powers. It's only as a body that you have any powers as far as the government is concerned. And so you act in council meetings, and that's how you exercise the powers of the council, not outside of it. But the council can take up just about any matter at once except interference with the administrative service. You can't call on the city manager to discipline an employee or to fire this person or to hire this person or to, but apart from that, you can take up in a council meeting most any matter you find to be important and germane. Can I add anything else for you?
Is it his authority to enter into a contract, we'll say a grant writer? Does he have the authority to do that?
All right, so this question has come up time and time again,
Okay.
and in my opinion, and I think it's correct, I've researched it over the years. When Brian Johnson first got here, being from out of state, one of the first questions he had for me was, what is my power into agreements as city manager? I researched it, wrote a memo to him at the time. Since then, I've researched this question, I can't count how many times, just to make sure I'm right. I feel comfortable in my research skills, and I feel comfortable in my opinion. As chief administrative officer, he needs to be able to actually perform that function, which means to enter into administrative agreements when necessary. I think he has the power to do that. And I'm asked a lot, is this something we need to take to the council or not? Usually my advice is to err on the side of taking it to the council, because the risk is if it's something that falls outside the ordinary needs and expenses of the city, then if it's not approved by the council, then it's an invalid agreement. So there's risk to the parties if you have agreement that needed to be approved by the council but wasn't. But some things are ordinary needs and expenses of the city, and I can't imagine government, the corporation, the municipal corporation would run very efficiently if he couldn't make any decisions and could not implement any, you know, if he had to get council approval for everything he did, why have a city manager at that point? You know, he's got to have some inherent authority to be as the chief administrative officer of the city. For example, there's no dispute that he has the power to hire and fire your attorney. Why would he have the power to hire and fire your attorney but not hire and fire an architect or an engineer or, you know, any other professional service? What makes being attorney different than being you know, a grant writer, somebody who's performing some administrative service for the city? So it's not always easy to say, you know, these things can be done without council approval and these things can't. You know, you have to analyze it from the perspective of, is it an ordinary, regular expense? And I consider that in the context of this form of government an administrative expense, or is it something outside of that? And again, my practice is whenever I have doubt about it is to err on the side of saying, present it to the council. And some city managers, since I've been working with the city for the past 5 years, have you know, I can think of one in particular that took everything to the council, whether or not it needed to be. And I can think of one that tended not to take things to the council. You know, it's just, I think, preference of that individual city manager and how they want their leaderships in styles. But yes, I am of the opinion that he has the power to enter into agreements when they are ordinary, relate to the ordinary powers and administrative service of the city.
Okay, thank you.
Let me make something perfectly clear. That's what President Nixon would say. Let me make it perfectly clear.
He also said I'm not a crook.
Yeah, that was true. That's what he was making perfectly clear.
You're thinking the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Well,
I like your Reagan.
no, it was Trump.
No, you go to Reagan some too.
Yeah, I do too.
Trust me, verify.
Yeah, trust me. Let me make it perfectly clear. And the municipal league in our reading, the city manager can sign contracts after the approval of the council. It's not like contracts are entered in every day, and we just have a floor and we just need to sign contract. Those contracts are normally in a way that they're coming up and have time to be vetted through the council. They ask the council to do stuff. And I didn't bring those readings with me tonight, but for instance, we're bringing up one, and I won't talk about it now, but anyhow, there's fiduciary duties that is responsibility of the council, that the city council itself can't take it away. All right? That's one of them. For me to vote on a contract. I respectfully disagree with your opinion.
And I would agree there are contracts that require your approval.
And which one of those there are? You cannot do an exclusive contract with a vendor and the council know nothing about it.
If bidding's required, I agree.
Depends on
No.
dollar threshold.
Well,
Whether it's professional service.
well, the thing about it, you can't hide all everything like that between professional service. Because
Well, the law draws a distinction there.
Well, the thing about it, like I said, you know, those things and exclusive contracts with someone, you know, a contract with them is one thing, but it's yours exclusively. That is something else. I don't think you have a contract, you don't have the authority to do that. And there's other that we're going to talk about shortly. You don't have the contract authority to do that. But anyhow, I'm not getting into that until I get to my time. But I'm just saying I'll make it perfectly
You're eating your time.
You're in your time. It's your time.
Well, not my time. I'm on your time, Millie.
No,
I know
your turn.
you brought this up.
You talking about 7C? No, no.
7C.
Is that what you're talking about? specifically?
Okay, we go ahead and deal with that.
Yeah, go
We
ahead and do that. Yeah.
Ms. Campbell, Ms. Louise Campbell, he signed, ever since I've been on the council, that contract's been coming to the council, she's been coming here, and we have been approving that contract or disapproving. It was on our work session agenda, one work session. And I think when it was obvious that they had some questions with it, they just went quiet and signed that contract without even coming to the council. and she didn't come, because I had questions for her, and I still do. You know, I saw the grant that you presented to us, you know, and I find them weak. They got there's nothing for West Anniston, South Anniston, like I said before. And my contention is not against the city manager. My contention is I want to know what's going on. And contracts being signed, I want to know about contracts. You know, I want to make sure that our people are getting some consideration in things, and it's not just going one way. So I think it's very important and prudent that the council knows what's going on in contract sale and dealing with that. And if in certain professional services, I think when you check professional services, I don't know what black is making a significant amount of money. We may get a black throw a crumb every now and then after we sort of pull the tooth and nail to try and get it in. But for a significant amount of funding out of professional services, blacks are not getting those contracts. They're not there. And we say, well, they're not here. Well, if you talk with us, Councilman Reddick and I know where to find them. And we can make that happen. And so that's why I said, when you read the Code of Alabama, and I do pick it up every now and then, it tells us the council authorized the mayor to sign or the city manager. So what it tell you. I'll get that code and I'll send it to you. And I know in Alabama, it's about 67 counties, and each county have their own operation. And I know how many, God don't know how many cities, God knows about 300 more cities in Alabama. How many? 400 in Alabama, and all four of them probably have their own different little laws that's governing them. So it's not even at our council, at our state league, they normally deal with mayoral council form of government, not council manager form of government. But there are some things that addresses us every now and then. But I do believe that contract, Ms. Louise Campbell's contract, grant writing has to come to the council for that particular. That's why one thing that I proposed last year, a few years ago, that professional service funds is placed in the council's hand, and when something is pulled from professional services, it has to come to the council for approval. You know, even though certain things are passed in the budget, it should be in the council's hand for approval. And I know I may have missed it, but have I gotten those legal fees yet?
No, not yet. I hope
All right.
Let me say, in respect to Ms. Campbell, and I appreciate your thought process and the fact that you want to know. She's been serving as our grant writer since I've been on this council, which is 7 years and some change now.
To be fair, we did vote to renew her contract several times.
I think it's a 3-year deal. But she's a part-time grant writer. We need to recognize that that's all we're funding is a part-time grant writer, and that as part-time grant writer, they're going to look for grants that we direct them to look for. If we've got a project, and perfect example was 2 weeks ago. I had a project in the downtown area that I felt like benefited the city of Anniston, and I talked to the city manager, and the next time Louise was over here, he set it up so that I could come in and sit with her and explain to her what I was looking for, and she's going out and researching grants on that, and will come back to me with, hey, there's nothing out there, or we can apply for these and this and this and this, and these are the thresholds, and do you want me to do this? And I would say that if there's something in West Anniston or South Anniston that you've got a particular interest in, like your pond, you know, have her explain to her what you're trying to do, and ask her to please go out and research what grants are available for that. Now, there may not be anything out
I
there.
agree with you because I asked, and I wish I would have got the same courtesy because I talked to you about having her look at some grants, and I didn't get that courtesy. It'd be nice if you set up a meeting with me and Louise so we can sit down and talk
I
about
think
that.
he'll be happy to do
But-
that for any of us.
But I didn't get that. I mean, I wish I could if I brought up, hey, can we look into some grants for this, and you set up the meeting. I didn't. You know, that's a courtesy
Well, you're
that
doing
you
it right
got
now.
that I would
David,
love.
you're doing
to
it
get.
right this second.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
thank
but he
you.
didn't
You're
have
doing
to.
Just writing it down.
I didn't know I had to bring it before a public council meeting to get the same courtesy.
But let me say
It would have
too,
been nice to get that courtesy.
So,
Absolutely.
and my involvement with Ms. Campbell is that she's been nothing but
Oh, yeah,
professional.
right.
And that she's been very successful. And when I say very successful, I don't mean that every grant that she's applied for we've gotten. We did one for the water tower the other day, and we told her to apply for it, and she said, "You're not going to get it." And we said, "Apply for it." And she said, "I'm wasting my time, but I will do that if you want me to." And she did it, and she was right. And she knew, the reason she was right is she knew what the criteria were for that specific grant, and she knew we were not meeting those minimum thresholds. We instructed her to proceed because we were under the assumption that we had some federal legislative support that was going to win the day. We were wrong.
The city don't have to pay for that now, do it? 'Cause I
No,
remember
well, we
before-
pay her a flat fee
No, I'm saying
annually.
that tower, that water tower, that's that $3 million project we talked about.
We're not doing, we're still working on it. We don't know where it's going to be at this point.
Nothing's been agreed to.
that, but I said, yeah, this is going my 14th year on the council. Ms. Campbell was over there. And she was on when I got on. So she's probably been around here about 20 years or more. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't agree with, it's up to us to take the grants to her. She's getting a flat fee, it used to be $30,000. You don't know what it is now. 25, 30,000 a year anyway. So she getting a flat fee. So I shouldn't have, if she's getting that, whether I come to her or not. So it's different if she was getting it when someone engaged her. But if she's getting that regardless, then she has to be out there looking for grants. And if she can't do that, that's why I need to see that, I need to be on a negotiated contract chain. There may be another grant writer out there that can do just as well, even better, that know how to go and look at some grants that may be able to help West Anniston and South Anniston. And since she's been around for about 20 years, so maybe
Let me,
it'll be enough focus.
Let me maybe, I think you missed my point
I
there.
can do that.
My point in all that was, she doesn't know what's in our minds as to what you want to see done in South Anniston. I mean, you want to see it improved, but saying I want to see it improved doesn't give her any parameter to seek a grant. Say, I want to improve the drainage right here. Okay, now I've got something specific. Now I can work to it. I'd like to see if there's something to improve the railroad crossings. You know, now I've got something specific that I can lean towards and do. I think that it is incumbent upon us as policymakers to define the policy in such a way that she knows what to seek. And absent of that, us standing there saying we want to see the city improve, well, of course we do. That's the reason we ran for office. But I want to see, you know, an improvement here or an improvement there. Well, then she has
Direction.
some criteria to begin to seek grants that fit the appropriateness of it. So I guess that was my point there is, yeah, I agree. She's obligated to search for grants, whatever, but without some direction from us, her chasing grants for something that we're not interested in doing is a waste of her time and our time at that point.
Maybe we should ask Louise to come to a work session. I mean, like specifically for the purpose of letting her know what we're looking at as far as
Well, I have.
potential.
I hear exactly what you're saying, but that's what I have done, and I've also asked, like, David, I want to see her, let me know when she's coming, so I can sit down and talk to her. I hadn't gotten that.
Well, let's do that. Set that up. Here's the
might
thing,
not
y'all. Though
be Louise
it's
that's driving the ball.
5:29.
Huh?
Might not be Louise dropping the ball.
No, we'll set that up. All right, it's 5:29. Is there anything remaining that has to be dealt with in the 1 minute we have left?
You want me to do the quick rundown of the, no, we'll do
Is
that.
everybody okay with Susan Gibbons'
Yes.
reappointment? All right,
That's just reappointment.
okay.
Her term's expired.
All right, can we take
It's
up,
board appointment.
Oh,
David, you can
term's
give that report on the 4th.
That's fine.
And Ben, we can take up clearing and cleaning, 10th and Gurnee,
all right.
and the meeting. We actually, the community meetings actually were some meetings with the social services agency, and we can get a report on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
We got a homeless problem coming up.
Okay.
Salvation Army, we're gonna have a homeless. big time
Yeah, yeah, no,
Oh,
absolutely.
One
And
minute.
then we got this
Hey,
census
Dave,
thing coming.
let's
Mr.
do this real
Little,
fast.
Mr. Little, Mr. Reddick, Mayor and I, the four of us have appointments to the Main Street Authority Board. We need to make those, please.
Main Street? Okay.
Yeah, we gotta have.
Yeah, we got with our appointment, so
We
you
got
all
it.
can
I got
have
it,
it.
you
You haven't done
turn
it.
in this paperwork, but I get
Yeah.
it.
No, I was gonna call you.
Run the people down, but our application is already in anything, huh?
I don't think there's.
Oh, always.
They have to apply to be on the road.
Send me your cell, and I'll shoot.
As you remain,
Submit it
as you
to
remain-
Main
Street Director.
Rather than